Okay, this one, I want to make a little tiny pumpkin, so it's not going to really hold anything. It's more of like a figurine, but then I'm going to put a little sleeping mouse on it because I think that that would be super cute. So I'm starting off with the ball of clay and I'm pressing it down in the middle. So there's my press down in the middle, and I'm sliding my thumb down to the bottom to start making those sections. So I'm making sections here, sliding my thumb, trying to pay attention to each little section. And I want some sections to be a little bit thinner than others. It's funny that we like mice, kind of, some people like mice, but we don't like rats. It's just something that I've been thinking about a little bit. My kids used to watch the movie Ratatouille a lot. We like mice, but we don't like rats at all. So I was thinking a little mouse wearing a witch's hat or something would be super cute on this. So I just did one section kind of small and I'm doing the other section kind of big. This one is like a little baby pumpkin. I'm recording right now. Sorry. I do this at my house and my family doesn't know necessarily. And then I'm getting another little ridge right here. So I just do that all the way around till I can get kind of like these little sections, and then I'm going to clean it up. I really like using this fleshy part of my finger to do this. I really do most of my work with the side of my thumb. Going back in and doing the detailing with that, making those crevices a little bit deeper and more pronounced. So making them more pronounced, and then I would smooth and blend. I really like using the side of my thumb because then it doesn't make them so sharp that it looks more fake. I think it looks more realistic, more like a pumpkin does. I think it's smoother and rounder. I don't have as much cleaning to do if I use that part of my thumb. If I use a tool, I find that I have a little bit more cleaning to do. I could go in there with a wood tool, but I think I have more cleaning to do. So now the bottom has kind of been neglected. The top is better, but the bottom has been neglected. So I'm just going to pull those lines down to the bottom. The bottom of the piece is really important. Even though most people don't see it, it's kind of nice if there's like some sort of little surprise down there. So I am going to try to put the little end where a pumpkin would grow, the flower would have been at the bottom where this was pollinated. So the stem would be here where it's attached to the plant, but there would have been a pumpkin blossom down here. And so I am going to put the nub where that blossom would have broken off down at the bottom. Some people will eat pumpkin blossoms or squash blossoms. Some people will deep fry them. We have a garden at home, and we have definitely turned squash blossoms into some very good quesadillas. You can stuff them with ricotta cheese. You can deep fry them. I haven't done that, but definitely sauteed them with onions and put them in with quesadillas. So I do want in my own work to really kind of give a little detail and honor how pumpkins and how things are grown. That is me as an artist. Think about what you want to communicate as an artist. Maybe I should put a cat on top of this, because garden cats keep the mice and other little buggers that will eat your pumpkins and eat your squash out of the garden. We don't happen to have a cat, but we have some neighborhood cats that enjoy sitting in the shade in the summer. So there we go. There is my little mini pumpkin, my little baby one. I am going to put this in a bag so that it dries up. I want to get it to kind of, it's a weird consistency. It's a leather hard, but it's the consistency of a block of cheese. So when I was a kid, before shredded cheese, like you can buy it in a bag now, but you didn't used to be able to buy it in a bag. You'd have to get a block and get a cheese grater and grate cheese. So you'd have a block of cheddar cheese or Colby Jack or whatever kind, and it was like a tough block square, and you'd shred that. So I want to get this almost to that cheese hard. If it's soft, it's not going to shred very well. So I want a cheese hard to shred this. And I am putting it in a grocery bag and wrapping it up so that I can cut it in half and hollow it out. Okay, so I'm going to be hollowing this little pumpkin out, and it's easiest to go horizontally. So I'm taking my cutting wire. This is a piece of floss. Ideally, in the classroom, we would have an actual wire, but I'm going to take a piece of floss and I'm going to cut in half. This might be a little bit tricky. If you have a piece of fishing line, this works too. If it doesn't cut perfectly, that's okay. Mine did not cut perfectly straight. So now this helps me. I've got like a little key. I wish I had had more control of it. The floss is really kind of hard to control. I wish it had cut a little bit straighter, but now it's going to help me put it back together easier. I like to have little notches like that in there, because then it shows me where it matches up. If you do have a good straight cut across, you can draw a little notch in it just at one side, and that's a key to help you line it up when you're done. You should cut when the outside is cheese hard. So you don't want to cut it open when it's very pinchable and plastic and you can manipulate it easily. You want to wait until it's firmer and it holds its form. So when I was a kid, shredded cheese wasn't like really a thing. You bought a block of cheese or a cube of cheese, and then you shredded it with a cheese grater or a box grating stand. And now there's just aisles and aisles of shredded cheese in the grocery store, it seems like. Everything's about convenience. You also didn't buy salad in a bag. you bought a head of lettuce. So things have changed just a little bit. But cheese hard is kind of a good way to think about leather hard. So the outside, it's almost like an M&M. The outside is firm, it's going to hold its form, and the inside it's a lot softer because it hasn't had that evaporation happening. And then with our homemade little loop tool, I did draw about this is a small one, so I did a little bit thinner than 1/4 inch. In the video I showed my students, it was an Aquaman bust, and the edges were about 1 inch thick because it was a pretty big sculpture. So for my bigger ones, I do about 1/4 inch. This one's a smaller one, so I'm doing just a little bit less than 1/4 inch. And then I'm going to scoop out using this loop tool that I've made the inside. And I want to try to keep my walls really even when I'm doing this. And then I'm also going to save this clay. So I'm going to pile this up and save this clay. If for some reason you accidentally poke through your wall, you can just kind of smash that clay right back in. And I am cradling the pumpkin in my hand. It's kind of like scooping out the inside of a cantaloupe or a watermelon or a honeydew, except I don't have a little nifty difty scooper that makes it into like the cute little ball forms. Okay, so it gets looking like this. I'm going to want to clean this up a little bit more. It's kind of thick here. It's really important that all your walls are even. That way they dry evenly and they don't crack. So I am going to come through in these thicker areas. And I'm also trying not to touch the edge because that needs to be flat so that it will accept the other half when I put them back together. Okay, going back through to make sure that they are even. And then I'm just using my finger to kind of pinch and go back through and make sure that they're even. Okay, so then it looks like that. You can see it's really kind of sharp inside there. I am going to want to take my finger and smooth out inside. Okay, so then I got that smoothed out inside, and I could put a little water on it. I'm nervous about putting too much water on it because I don't want to get it soggy. Now I have this whole pile of clay here. I'm going to ball this up. And I'm going back through and doing this on my other side. Got it kind of thin there, so I'm just going to make sure that I don't go too deep. So there are a lot of different loop tools that you can use for this. Some of them are really big loops if you're doing a bigger sculpture. Some of them are really small loops, like Kemper makes these itty bitty tiny ones. You can do ones that are like flatter or rounder. It's just kind of each artist's preference, what tool they like. This one did bend a little bit, so I'm going to be really careful and make sure that I can bend it back into place for my other pumpkin. This one's kind of thin. And I am smoothing. Okay, so I'm looking back for that key, which is a registration mark, and that really helps me get it lined up quickly, so I don't just sit and like, which way, I don't know, because all the ridges start to look the same, especially if your pumpkin kind of bent or it manipulated a little bit. Okay, so then for this next step, before I put it together, I would want to take a little tiny piece of paper towel, and I'm putting water on it, but I'm wringing out all the extra water. So I dipped it in a little water and I wring out, I'm just going to wring it over my extra clay, all of the extra water. And I'm really carefully putting it in between. So to me, this looks like a hamburger with a little piece of cheese. So a hamburger and cheese, and then I'm going to wrap it up in a plastic bag. I'm doing this so that the idea behind this is my seam becomes a little bit more plastic and it's able to accept the scoring and slipping together. But I'm still trying to keep the body of my pumpkin leather hard so that it doesn't collapse when I put it together. So this is really about controlling my stages of clay. I want my seam to be plastic so it really adheres together and it welds together super well, but my body of the pumpkin is going to stay leather hard. That is my goal in this. And I roll it over so I get several layers of plastic in there. I don't want it drying out. I really want to force that water into the clay right around that area. So what I could do is I could wait 30 minutes and then I could come back and I could score it and slip it together, add a reinforcing coil, or I could wait till the next day. So tomorrow's class period is another option. I wouldn't really want to wait longer than that because the clay would dry out. Okay, I'm going to try to keep this video short, hoping that it uploads quickly. But a couple things that you can do are you can use a pencil to kind of go in and make these grooves a little bit more. This has already been hollowed out. So if I wanted to go in and increase these grooves a little bit more, you could do that on the bottom too if you wanted. It is, I think, important that the bottoms look good as well. And then you can use your little gift card rib to go and clean that up. And I'm trying to define those ridges. So I'm going through and defining ridges here. And then I am also going to define ridges over here. And defining ridges here. And I'm going to define ridges over here. And then you can even use the tip of your pencil to kind of make like a ridge right there. I like to use the tip of my pencil. And I'm even using the tip of my pencil like a wood tool to smooth it out. Okay, so I would do that more on this side, but I'm trying to be fast so that this doesn't block me from uploading it. Put some slip. I made a stem, so I'm going to put some slip on my stem. Give it a little press. Get my little makeshift wood tool and weld it in. But I still want it to kind of pop up above. So I'm just pinching it down around, and then I want the stem to still look like it's up above the pumpkin, because pumpkin stems kind of rest on top. They're not fully blended in. So I did weld it in, but then I'm giving it a little press, so it's just right above that. And then I'm gonna kind of smooth and make like little grooves in the side of my stem. Give it some little attitude. And I could even rough it up on the top a little bit, because when they get pulled off, when you take a pumpkin off the stem, off the plant, you kind of twist it to take it off. So bring that texture down there. And they're kind of pokey, so I want to give that texture too. So that is my pumpkin stem. If you don't want to hollow it out, you would then take a paper clip and poke a hole in the bottom. That way it doesn't blow up. You have an air vent to allow the air to escape. If you do want to hollow it, or sorry, if you don't want to cut a lid, you poke a hole in the bottom, then put your name on the bottom. If you do want to make a lid, I would start by sketching where you want your lid to be, and then always cut a little tiny bit wider than you actually think you want the lid to be. So if you cut straight down, it's going to fall in. You need to cut at an angle. So don't cut straight down, cut at an angle. And I like to use an X-Acto knife. I would use a sharper knife if possible. And there you go. There's your lid. This does need to be smoothed. This is going to be sharp. This is going to need to be smoothed. And then inside where you have your seam, you can't really see that with the lighting in here, but where you have your seam, you will need to smooth that together. So you will need to take a few minutes and then just weld the seam together on the inside so that it's not sharp and that it's food safe. So those are the steps. I do have more cleaning to do on this. It's a little bit tricky to get this on. There we go. I think I might add a little leaf on here. I will definitely want to put my name on here, but I need to clean up the outside, define a little bit more of this, clean up the inside, define a little bit more of the outside. Maybe put a little leaf coming off here, not too far because I don't want it to extend over there, but make this really cute. I could even cut like a jack-o'-lantern face in here. That would be really cute as well. So enjoy, make it unique, make it you. If you're making a dog, you can make a little lid for the dog or whatever. Make sure that you have some way for air to vent out. The air will vent out via this lid.